Can a square have a personality? Yes, but how do you show it feeling joy, frustration, surprise when it's just a square? In this video, I will show you how to animate a basic shape so that it feels alive. And I'll also show you a simple trick to turn it into a face too. Hi, I'm Sarmalka. I'm a motion designer who's easing back into traditional animation. I'm going to be using Procreate for this tutorial, but you could follow along in any drawing app that supports animation. This first part is super important. The first step in this whole process starts by picking your character's personality, their dominant trait. Just think about Inside Out. If you've seen the movie, you probably remember that each of the emotions are characters. There's joy, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, and each of those characters is an emotion. If you could boil down what you want your square's core personality to be, what would be their emotion? So in my case, I'm going to pick joy. I know it's basic, but I think we can have a lot of fun with it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write that down on my project. Once you've written down what your square's core personality is, you're going to pick what color they're going to be. You're not going to start by coloring off, but you want to pick the color and almost have that as another reference point for how your character is going to have this entire personality packed into them. The easiest way to pick which color you're going to have is by looking at psychology of color. This chart is actually from, I can't even remember which class I saw it in, but I do remember it was in my design school classes multiple times over. You always try to pick something that will give a psychological response or have an association that people already know. I personally think that joy falls in between, somewhere between that yellow and that orange, because joy is about sunshine and happiness and just like this really bubbly personality. But there's also a lot of excitement carried over, and that's where the orange comes in. So I'm going to quickly put down a swatch, and you're only picking one, otherwise it's very easy to overcomplicate things. So you might think you're ready to start animating, but not just yet. There's still a couple more steps to just really almost build your mood board of what your square's personality is going to look like and how it's going to work into a smooth animation that's just going to bring all of the personality you're building here to life. Now I'm going to pick a rough pencil because I'm going to keep this mood board, this initial idea stage, very, very rough. This way you can move things along quickly and you're not stuck in finessing and making things perfect at such an early stage. So now I'm just going to draw my square so I have a reference of how it's supposed to look. And we're going to keep things in the 2D space because if you're doing this for the first time, having to also figure out dimensions is really complicated. I was practicing this earlier and even I was having a bit of difficulty remembering dimensions. And this is just trying to keep things as simple as possible when you're just practicing how to bring personality to a shape. I also want to point out that you do not have to keep the square as a square. The entire point of this is you can play around and see like if you want a shape taller. I think this one is going to be a little bit on the taller and skinnier side, almost like lifting and happy. I also have an idea for later on that will really help communicate that idea of joy and just shouting out to the world that this character is very happy, that this little square is a very happy character. Now you're up to the last step of planning your character. You are going to create a rough storyboard of what action your square is going to take to communicate that personality, that emotion, in this case, that joy. I'm going to try to keep this to a few drawings so that it's a quick animation versus a long one. So let me go ahead and quickly do that for you. I'll speed this part up. What you want to remember is that while you are starting with a square, this square does not have to stay in its square form. The entire point is that this square is flexible and you want to be able to use it to its fullest potential. Well, and that means that when you are storyboarding at this roughest stage, it's not even a true storyboard. It's literally me just getting ideas down of like how I think this is going to move along and writing notes on the bottom for where it is. Get an idea of the action that your character, your square is going to take. And the three things that you really want to pay attention, it's figuring out where you can comically exaggerate your square. You'll notice that I have the square changing shape and going into a line like that. And also it's bending to the sides. It's keeping more of that flexibility rather than a rigid square. The second thing is you're going to want to really push, squash, and stretch. Those are like the basic principles of animation to create something and turn it from static into alive. And the third piece you're going to want to pay attention to when you are planning this, you're going to want to write a staging note. Staging in animation is figuring out where your character is going to be placed on the screen. If they are very small in the corner of a screen, it gives a feeling of isolation. If it's very centered in your screen, then it can be like they are the focal point and they don't mind having the attention on them. And that's where my mind is going with joy. So I'm going to make a note here for staging, center and large. And with that said, we are up to animating. I'm going to cut my little storyboard here. I'm going to turn off my other layer, and I'm going to move this one to the top so that I can have it as a reference while I'm doing a very rough animation. I'm still going to be using the pencil that I've been using this whole time, that rough Doer pencil. It's part of Procreate. If you're using that program, you don't have to get any new brushes. I'm going to group this, add a new layer, turn on my animation assist or any animation ability that you have in your program. Now's the time to turn it on. And in Procreate, I get to set this as my background. And now I just have it permanently as my reference. I'm going to start roughing it in and create my extremes, and then I will do the in-betweens. The entire point, if you're doing this for the first time, is to keep it rough, keep it simple. Let me go ahead and do that for you to show you how this all comes together. All right, I'm going to play through the extremes and let's see how it looks real quick. Looks pretty terrible, but now this is where you fill in the in-betweens. That was the in-between. Let me play this for you and let's see how that's looking. So it's looking pretty good for a square that is just doing this simple movement of communicating joy. And remember, you are getting this much personality from a square, from a simple shape that does not have a face yet. So now you have to ask the question, what does it look like when you add a face? Does it add anything? Does it help with anything? Also, how do you even add a face to a square? Well, this is why I picked the square. Because traditionally, when you have a circle and you know how the face is divided into 3 parts, you can do the same thing with a square. You can also, I've done it in the past with my bouncing balls, where I've just done 2 lines, one down the center and then one across for the eyes. Let's add a face to this square so I can show you what I'm talking about with how you place lines and how to create a face on all of your frames. Let's play it again. That's looking pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'm ready to move on to the next step. And if you've been following along doing this, congratulations. I'm so happy that you made your first character shape animation. If you want even more simple ways to level up your animation in low pressure, practical ways, join my email list where I'll be able to send all of this right to you. But we're not finished yet with this because it's still looking pretty rough. So let me jump back into this and show you the final step, and that is refining and coloring. You're going to want to go into your layers, and you're going to create new layer on top of your rough, and then you will group the 2 of them together. You'll pick a smoother brush or any way that you want to outline it. Before you start coloring your square, I just want to show you a couple of coloring tricks that will help you speed up your process, save you some time. Instead of trying to tap with your pencil to get to the next frame, 2-finger it. And that means that you're going to reach down and you're going to tap the next one, drag your color over and drop it into your outline, and then you're going to tap with this finger, this hand. You're going to tap the next frame and you're going to do the same process. This speeds things up for me, And if you haven't heard of this before, I wanted to share this tip with you just because it's helped me so much when it comes time for coloring. And if you're worried about having your lines get roughed up because your hand isn't that steady, then let me just teach you a quick method, a quick way that you can do in any kind of drawing program. And that's, you just have to find where your stabilization for your pencil is. In Procreate, it's under Preferences in the settings. And you go into pressure and smoothing, and then you can just bump up the stabilization. And that's going to make the pencil trace smoothly. There's going to be a little bit of a delay, but that helps add to the smoothness. If you're thinking, can I push this further? You're already halfway to animating ahead. And I'll get into how you're going to do that in just 1 second. Let's play it one more time. My final thoughts on this square, and if it actually works as a personality piece, I'm going to say yes. I think that definitely there is always room for refinement, for revision, but just to get started, just to have fun with it, I think that this is actually a good start. You are more than welcome to agree or disagree with me in the comments, but I would like to share with you how you can take this one step further and use it in any future characters that you want to create. Remember, I told you how you can add a face to your character and to your square, and that is just literally drawing the lines of a character's head dimensions on it, where the eyes will be placed, where the mouth will be placed. That is literally all you're doing with the square to turn it into a face. And because you've practiced on this square, you're now able to take this and push it even further. You can go ahead and practice different angles. You also get into perspectives. What is a head except that you're animating it in different perspectives, like the side, the front, and that's the same thing with the square, except now you get to play with it a bit more. If you want to dive into more simple animations you can practice, watch this video here, but if you're ready to export your video, watch this one here.